Hi, I'm Circuit Judge Ken Howard. As the chairperson of Hardin County United's Governance Subcommittee, I'm pleased to take this opportunity to introduce the following video, which features former Louisville Metro Mayor Jerry-Abramson. Hardin County United, HCU, is the organization which was established to follow up on the strategic goals during last year's Hardin County Vision Project. The Vision Project was conducted in response to the growth that is coming with the base realignment, commonly referred to as BRAC, at Fort Knox. HCU has been tasked to prioritize the strategic goals and to develop an implementation strategy for those goals. HCU has a steering committee of over 60 community members, which is chaired by Hardin County Judge Executive Harry Berry. HCU also has 3 subcommittees: Community Development, Education, and Governance. Today's video is part of an ongoing study which is looking into the potential for unified or metro government for Hardin County. The study seeks to determine how Hardin County might be served by some form of unified government. HCU has retained consultant Luke Schmidt and his firm, LB Schmidt and Associates, to facilitate this study. The study includes an examination of the existing government jurisdictions in Hardin County, an analysis of other communities which have established unified governments, interviews with key community leaders, and community forums held throughout Hardin County for the purpose of sharing some of the early findings from the study and, most importantly, obtaining input from the community citizens. A key part of this project included a presentation from former Louisville Metro Mayor Jerry-Abramson. Mayor Abramson was the first mayor of the merged Louisville and Jefferson County government. Mayor Abramson is a nationally recognized figure in the area of unified government and has spoken to some 90 conferences around the country since Louisville and Jefferson County merged their governments in 2000. HCU was pleased to welcome Mayor Abramson to the community recently for the purpose of sharing his views on the subject of unified government. The video which follows highlights Mayor Abramson's presentation to the steering committee. As HCU moves through this project, I would like to encourage you to visit our website, hardincountyunited.com, which will be periodically updated with information pertaining to this project. We encourage you to share your views on this subject with us by visiting our website or our Facebook and Twitter pages. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you all for the opportunity to visit and to talk a little bit, and it's good to meet some new friends, make some new friends, meet some new folks, and also to see some people that I've had an opportunity to work with over the years, and we've done some good things together. We have a lot to be proud of. I first want to make it clear that I am here as a resource. I was in Paducah within the last month speaking to a group of several hundred of their business community members about just the same issue. They're looking at whether it makes sense, whether it doesn't make sense to have a merger. And I said to them the same thing. You know, every community is different. Every community has to tailor whatever you want to whatever you ultimately, whatever the goal is that you set. And I'm not here to advocate. I'm here to answer questions. I'm here to lay out how we did it. Doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. Took us 40 years to do it. Doesn't mean it should take you 40 years to decide what you want to be when you grow up. But it took us 40 years. It took us 4 elections. So we've been there. We've done that. We've had several different approaches. Obviously, 3 of them failed, and 1 of them was successful. So let me see if I can give you the story as I remember it. And again, as I look around this room, I know that you follow the media, whether you're interested in it or not. It's thrust upon you from the greater Louisville area, and as a result, you probably remember as much as I do. I was just maybe a little closer to it so that I can give you a little bit of the nuts and bolts. As I said, our community looked at merging back in the late 60s. That was when the action really in this country began to move toward consolidation. Cities like Indianapolis, cities like Nashville, cities like Jacksonville, and cities like Louisville all had it on the ballot for people to vote. And that's generally the way it comes about. You let the people decide whether they want to or they don't want to. In the late 60s, Indianapolis passed it. They called their community Indianapolis Marion Unigov. Marion was the county. In Nashville, they passed it. It was Nashville-Davidson Metro. And in Jacksonville, they passed it with their county. And so We, unfortunately, I say unfortunately because I was a proponent of having one consolidated government. It failed in Louisville in the late 60s. And we had lots of people deciding, or at least articulating why they thought it failed, but let's just say it failed, and we began to move forward trying to understand where to go from there. In the early 80s, we tried to do it again. We thought that there was a feeling among the business leadership, and generally speaking, the impetus, the energy, the energy comes from businessmen and women who begin to wonder why one side of the street is one jurisdiction and the other side of the street is another jurisdiction. And they're coming in to build something, why half their lot that they're building on is in one jurisdiction and half their lot's in another jurisdiction. And when they find it to be that way, they wonder why in one half of the lot they've got certain permit requirements and certification requirements, and on the other half of the lot they got to go to a different governmental entity for permit requirements and certification requirements. So you literally have a situation where the business community gets it. They're looking at a community. They either came to that community because of where it was located, vis-a-vis their customers, their raw materials, or whatever. They chose the community for some reason. And when they got there, they thought they were in, and then you fill in the blank. They thought they were in Hardin County. They thought they were in West Point. They thought they were in E-Town. But they find out that actually they were sort of in, but not always in, and then it gets to be confusing. So the business community pushed our community to take the time to analyze what we wanted to be when we grew up. And we voted on it twice in the early 80s. We have multiple cities in Jefferson County. Depending on what day it is, we have 76, 81, you know, you have to, it just depends on what day it is. And so, so we had ballot votes by citizenry, one that would do away with all the cities. And every small city, large city, medium city, they'd all be gone. And we'd have one entity. And that failed. And then we said, okay, we'll let some of the suburban cities will now have a choice to stay. Do you want to do it that way? And it failed. It failed in the early 80s, and it failed a year later. In fact, we got very close the first time in the early 80s we voted on it. I think it failed by, I want to say 800-900 votes, if I remember, maybe 1,000. And so everybody said, we're so close, now's the time, let's go back, let's put it back on the ballot the next year. So we put it back on the ballot the next year, and instead of losing by 800 or 900, we lost by 1,600 or 1,800. We were going the wrong way. So the community said it was time to take a deep breath. And this is really where I want to start in the presentation to you all, because, again, each community has to decide what it wants to do. We decided that we had had these two quick elections. Both of them were close, but it got worse the second election than the first. We had lost it back in the 60s. Maybe we ought to come up with a hybrid. Maybe we ought to look for some way where we can work together and give the community, as we said, an opportunity to take a deep breath, because we had two elections, and you know there were people for it, people against it. Most people weren't sure where they were, but there were advocates that were strong on both sides. Maybe it was time to take a deep breath and figure out what we could do as a community to develop a better working relationship with the city and the county, and leave the suburban cities alone. We had a new county judge at that time. We had a new mayor. I was the new mayor. And we sat down for 28 negotiating sessions and worked through a thing that we called the Louisville Jefferson County Comprehensive Agreement for the Future, or something like that. So as we walked out of the final meeting, we decided nobody was going to ever call it. Obviously, I've already forgotten what the name was. No one's ever going to call it that. We need to find something to call it. And so we took out the thesaurus. That's a book that now you can get online and do it. But the thesaurus, and it was outside my office, and we began looking, and we found the word compact. And so that's what we called it. We called it the compact. And it was ultimately signed off on by Frankfort, signed off on by the county fiscal court and the city board of aldermen, and we closed this middle of the street between the courthouse and the city hall, and we had this big signing, and we painted on the asphalt, you know, the red carpet with coming together for the compact. Well, what was the compact?